Welcome into another episode of Tailgate Talk SEC. I am Will Thomas, and the offseason has begun. The offseason has begun. We have 220 days until college football is back next season, but that does not mean that there is any shortage of content and coverage that we can bring you about college football. There is never a dull day in this sport, and don't let anybody tell you otherwise. Before I get into just some of the news I wanted to cover today, just back to the national championship game, Indiana completed the story. Right, and look, I had no problem. Like, I was pretty, I did not think they were going to finish that runoff. You know, my biggest point of it was they're the inferior talented team in every game they've played from the Big Ten onward. And really in most games in conference play, too, if you look at the composite rankings. And at some point, I thought that was going to catch up to them. Right, I didn't think that it was even possible that a team can be like this magical and just this well off when it comes to execution and game planning and game prep, to where you can consistently beat, not just people like dominate, these teams who are way more talented than you. And then after the Oregon game, it clicked in my head, like, that just doesn't apply in this situation. This Indiana team is such an anomaly to where they're the best. They are the best team. And for Miami, like, they barely got in. It's very clear they belonged because of how good those lines of scrimmage are, how good that defense is. Miami was a half-decent quarterback away from winning that championship game. Like, probably in decent fashion. Carson Beck is horrible. If you have followed my Twitter, every time Miami's had a playoff game, my main point has been, guys, Carson Beck sucks. Right? And then, like, Shannon Dawson, he did a great job of making it easy for him with quick passes, a lot of running to Mark Fletcher, just extensions of the running game to Malachi Tony out wide. But you can't hide a bad quarterback forever. And when a defense as good as Indiana gets to see that blueprint, you saw it happen. You know, Beck was very limited. It was all just short passes. The flip to Malachi Tony for a touchdown. A lot of Beck's numbers are all yak. And when he was finally forced to throw the ball downfield, game-ending interception. So, Miami, man, if they had a quarterback who they were able to trust to throw the ball downfield and not have the entire game be played within 5 yards of the line of scrimmage, they win that championship game. They do. But the good news for Indiana is that they didn't. They had Carson Beck, and Indiana encouraging that he complete the greatest turnaround in the history of college football, without a doubt in my mind. The first ever 16-0 team, and, Cignetti, they took Tuesday off. According to him, they're back at it today. They have some great portal additions coming in. They have Josh Hoover coming in at quarterback, Nick Marsh at receiver. Like, Indiana is just reloading. They're not going anywhere anytime soon. I don't see any threat of complacency within that program, given what we know about Cignetti. So I think Indiana's going to be right back at the top. But going now to some of the news that's come out really in the past 48 hours, I'm starting off with Trinidad Chambliss. So he's been applying for this waiver. He's been in the court, he's been in the legal system, trying to get an extra year of college football. And for a while, it didn't seem like it was going to work out. And then Ole Miss brought in Deuce Knight at quarterback, which to me said Chambliss is not coming back. Right, like, they're going to fight it, obviously, for the kid, but he's not going to work. Then this morning, optimism has started to bubble that he's going to get it approved. The hearing for it is today. We might not know today, but who knows? You never know how fast this stuff moves. But Trinidad Chambliss, all of a sudden, there is optimism that he might come back. So if he comes back, he'll obviously be in front of Deuce Knight. I don't know what that situation is like. It's possible that Deuce knew on his visit that they were going to fight to bring Chambliss in, so he was willing to sit back a year if that's how it happened. But, now you have Trinidad Chambliss coming back. He's running it back with Keywan Lacey at running back. A lot of that offense is kind of new pieces, but you have that core still together. So with Chambliss coming back, if he is, and with how that offense is set up, does that make Ole Miss an early favorite out of the SEC to make the playoff? I need to wait for the portal to shake out before I can really make a prediction on that. And even when it does, I still don't know what this team looks like with a full year under Pete Golding. He was great in the playoffs. Beating Georgia was incredibly impressive. And, obviously the first game was Tulane. Don't really care about that. But, he was into the end against Miami. Beat Georgia. It was very impressive. Is there a part of that playoff run that was just lightning in a bottle of this team? The emotional kick that the Lane Kiffin saga gave them. I'm still kind of in wait-and-see mode with Ole Miss. They're going to be incredibly good next year no matter what. No matter what, they're going to win 8 or 9 games, worst case. They'll be very good. I'm going to have a hard time, I think, really having a clear read on the Rebels really until we see a few games. And that's kind of a cop-out of a prediction, but luckily it's not prediction season yet. But with Chambliss back, obviously, the ceiling is national championship. It is. Like, their ceiling was championship this year, so you bring Chambliss back for his second full year at D1. You'll get that again. Ole Miss is going to be incredibly talented. You still need to wait for the portal to shake out to backfill what they lost. They just lost Prince William Omiyale to LSU this morning. So there's a lot going on. There's a lot going on with Ole Miss, but getting Chambliss back, if they do, is obviously a massive step in the right direction. Another quarterback here who's been in the news a lot, Darian Mensah, the Duke quarterback who we all thought was returning. Then just within the last 48 hours, I believe, he announced that he was going to enter the transfer portal. And that Miami is clearly the school that he's going to, because tampering is legal as it currently stands, which is great. But this is obviously being fought out now in the courts also. We have a second legal battle with a school and their quarterback in this portal cycle, not exhausting at all. So Duke, they cannot block him from entering the transfer portal. That he can still put his name in the portal. But where Duke has the advantage is that they got a TRO, a temporary restraining order, that says he can't play for another school. He can't get NIL from another school. So sure, he can still enter the portal. They can't block him from entering, but they can block him from playing somewhere else. So obviously he won't do that if that TRO does stand. And there's a hearing on February 2nd, which they're trying to get moved up, that will, more or less decide this whole saga. And that TRO will last until that hearing. So whether that's on Groundhog Day, big day for hearings, or it's earlier, Mensah right now will not go, he won't commit to Miami right now because he doesn't know if legally he can play. But my biggest thing about this whole saga is that after the Damon Williams situation, that was incredibly public, and it was similar, right? Where it was a player who had a contract with their current school, then he got, tampered with, offered a lot of money, and tried to leave later. But then Washington was able to enforce that contract and keep him in there. So unless Darian Mensah and his camp knew that something about their case was so much different than Damon Williams that he would be able to go, they just look really dumb. Because this just played out. It just played out. So the situation was even remotely similar. If you're Mensah, you can't risk doing this because it's a PR disaster if you lose and you're forced to come back. You have to regain the trust of your teammates, of your coaches, of your fans. It's all that same issues that Damon Williams is going to go through. So unless Mensah and his camp knew that they had something up their sleeve, knew that there was some part of their contract that they can win this on, which they might. Obviously, I don't know what's going on with behind the scenes. I just know what's being reported. If that's all not true and Mensah is forced to go back, this just looks so dumb. And Mensah's a great player. I hope he has a really good career, but we're just in this, and you can't really blame him for wanting to go to Miami for more money, because it's not his fault, it's the system's fault that this is how this is acting. But at the same time, he signed a contract. And if he's going to be forced to honor it, that's the right thing to do. So we'll see how it plays out, but we have a second legal battle with a quarterback trying to leave their school after signing on. Chambliss' legal battle is trying to get eligibility. There's a lot of the court system involved in the transfer portal this time around, which hopefully will lead to some change. Because obviously this is not a sustainable model for the offseason of college football, where this is all going on in general, but also where it's all going on during the playoff. And while coaches are being hired and fired and players are moving around and schools are competing for the ultimate prize, something's got to change, I would say. And so hopefully all this does spark changes, and we'll see what happens with Darian Mensah down the line. And then the other big storyline really of today and the past week, man, LSU is doing their thing in the portal. I mean, it's not really that much of a surprise that Lane Kiffin, who's been, anointed the portal god, ironically by Ole Miss fans in the past, that he's doing as well as he is in the portal, bringing talent into Baton Rouge, into LSU. Like I said earlier in the show this morning, he brought in Prince William Omiyale from Ole Miss, their elite edge rusher. And LSU is also leading for Jordan Seaton, the Colorado offensive tackle, who is commanding multi-million-dollar deals in the portal. He's one of the best offensive linemen in the country. So LSU's on a roll. Right, and like I said, this really is an elite portal haul by Kiffin, which is not too much of a shock. He currently has 39 transfers signed on as of right now. That is with Seaton withstanding, and who knows who else he'll bring in. He's bringing in 39 guys. Now, obviously, that is higher than usual because LSU had a coaching change. So I think it was a little more than 30 people transferred out of LSU. So obviously, he had to bring all those guys in. But when you look at the volume of players that Kiffin is bringing into Baton Rouge, and then pair that with the caliber of player, it's probably the best haul in the country. Now, when you go to On3's portal rankings, they do it in a cool way, actually, where you take the transfers in and measure that with the transfers out, and you get kind of a net rating. So when you look at that, it's Indiana, Texas Tech, and A&M who are the top three. But if you just look at overall bringing talent in, in my opinion, it's LSU. You're bringing in Sam Levitt at quarterback for this year. You also got Hussein Longstreet coming in as your quarterback of the future. You have elite skill players coming in. Trey Wilson, Jace Brown at receiver. I mean, Kiffin is bringing in the guys that he needs to contend for a championship in Baton Rouge in year one. The question is, does it all mesh together, right? Because you saw it with Florida State after the 2023 season. Norvell brought in a bunch of more good players. And it worked in 23. Why can't it work in 24? But as you see with some of these portal-heavy teams, it can really be a crapshoot, where they either work together well, FSU 2023, or they work together horribly, FSU 2024. Now, I don't really see a scenario where the bottom falls out for Lane in year one. Like, I don't think, even if the players don't mesh well together, I don't see a way that they are a bad team. I mean, the floor's got to be 8 wins for LSU next year. I'll have to look more on their schedule, but it might not be championship caliber. And then the question becomes, how much patience do LSU fans have with Lane? I'd imagine that after year one, assuming there's no disaster, which I don't think that there will still be plenty of patience in terms of, like, he'll get year 2, right, without much smoke. And then he'll get year 3, maybe with a little bit if they still can't, go to Atlanta, go to the playoff. But with the caliber of talent that Lane is going to be bringing into Baton Rouge and how you've been able to see him, turn these portal-heavy teams into great units pretty consistently, there's no reason to believe that he can't have LSU contending for Atlanta next year, earning a playoff spot next year, and competing for a championship really, really early. If we get past year 3, and he's maybe only been to the playoff once, like maybe it's this year or in year 2, the patience could run pretty thin, because we know how Lane is personality-wise. He's not really going to change the way that he acts in press conferences and in social media, so that's great unless you're losing. Or in Ole Miss's case this past year, unless you're flirting with other jobs. Then you lose the goodwill of your fans and your reporters, and sometimes even your team really, really fast. So Lane is getting all the talent he needs. He has a good staff around him with Charlie Weiss and Blake Baker as his coordinators. There's really no reason why LSU can't compete immediately. So we'll see if they do. But if they don't, there could be some noise in Baton Rouge. That's all I've got for this episode of Tailgate Talk SEC. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We'll be doing this all offseason, right? Even though college football is over, these storylines will keep on rolling, obviously, because the portal is still working. Plenty of content there. But then as we go into the offseason, we'll be doing so many roster breakdowns, so many projections, breaking down each team in the SEC, their portal class in versus out. Are they better? Are they worse? How much better? How much worse? We'll be doing all of it here. So if that is interesting to you, you want some more SEC football content all year long, subscribe to me here. I have been Will Thomas, and thank you so much for watching this episode of Tailgate Talk SEC.